We all know the God of War franchise. It's like an orchestra of blood and guts, conducted by Kratos himself, the angriest man in gaming. But what if I told you there's another game heavily inspired by this franchise? I'm of course talking about Dantes Inferno. A game for the PS3, came out in 2010, which is also the year of God of War 3's release. You take the role as Dante, a crusader who's returned from the Third Crusade to find his beloved Beatrice murdered and her soul dragged to hell by Lucifer. To rescue her, you must descend into the 9 circles of hell, each representing a different sin, and face the horrors and temptation that lurk within. Along the way, you will also confront your own sins and the dark secrets of your past through short animations. The game is based on the poem by Dante Alighieri, but with a modern twist and a lot of action. You will encounter famous characters from the poem, such as Virgil, who guides you through hell, and the Cerberus, the 3-headed quote-unquote dog that guards the gluttons. You are equipped with 2 weapons and 4 abilities, such as a scythe that can slash enemies, and a cross that can shoot holy beams. The game features a morality system that can affect your alignment and allows you to unlock different abilities based on it. You can choose to absolve or punish the souls you encounter. I will go into more details on these later. Dantes Inferno is a game that wears its inspiration on its sleeve. You can tell from the first minute that it's trying to be God of War. And you know what? That's not a bad thing. The God of War games are great. As Oscar Wilde once said, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And this game does flatter God of War a lot by mimicking its combat and puzzles. But it also adds some original elements like the moral choices, the upgrade system, and the 9 circles of hell. The game is mostly fun to play, with some minor annoyances along the way. There are 4 difficulties you can pick from Classic to Infernal. Infernal is a mode you unlock when you complete the game the first time. I love to test my skills and patience, that's why I chose the hardest possible mode for this game, Hellish. I thought I was ready for it, but oh boy was I wrong. I make some progress in the game, but I eventually get stuck on a section, and after about an hour of dying over and over again, I realized that I'll never beat this game in this mode. I had no chance but to admit defeat and lower the difficulty to C-Lot, which is still pretty hard, but at least manageable. Maybe one day I'll try Hellish or Infernal again, but for now I'm happy with C-Lot. The game rewards you with souls for defeating enemies and advancing the story. You can use the souls to enhance your abilities in various ways. For example, you can improve your aerial combat skills, extend your heavy attack combos, boost your magical power, or just upgrade Dante's basic attributes such as health and mana capacity. You can also upgrade your Holy Cross, which is your ranged ability. This, however, is something I completely ignored as I didn't see it being useful. It is a ranged ability that allows you to shoot enemies from a distance. However, I found it being less useful than the Scythe. You can get an upgrade that allows the Scythe to grab and kill flying enemies, which makes the Holy Cross redundant. The Holy Cross is only required in some situations, where the enemies are out of reach or need to be extinguished before being able to hit them. Therefore, upgrading the Holy Cross feels like a waste of souls. All these upgrades are locked behind both previous upgrades and alignment. When you encounter foes, sometimes you'll get an ability to punish or absolve. You're ultimately deciding which path you're taking. Choosing to punish the enemy gives you unholy experience, and absolving gives you holy experience, thus paving a path depending on what you decide to do with your enemies. You do not only have options to do this on enemies, you will encounter sinners along the way down to hell. The game gives you a little introduction of the character and their sin. You decide whether you want to punish the sinner or absolve them. This yields a larger amount of experience points to help leveling up and getting new abilities. This is where the Holy Cross starts to suffer. You improve the strength of the scythe with unholy experience, and the cross with holy experience. This led me to only punishing enemies along the way to empower my scythe, which is the obvious powerhouse. It does take quite a bit of time to level up these, so I didn't want to waste my points into holy, which led that I had very few upgrades in the cross by the time I finished the game. When the hordes of hell are knocking on your door, you need more than just a scythe and a silly cross. You need the power of magic. In this game you have 6 really fun spells to unleash on your demonic foes, plus 2 extra ones if you buy the DLC, which I did not. You can unlock this spell by defeating bosses and upgrading skills in your menu. For example, you can dash through enemies and leave a trail of ice behind you. Or you can summon a holy cross that attacks nearby enemies automatically. My personal favorite is the Sins of the Father, which is so powerful it made my PS3 smoke like a barbecue. As you can see on the video here, and see how the frame rate sunk like a rock. This game is not for the faint of heart or the weak of hardware. One of the unique features of the game is the ability to absolve strange creatures that are hidden in plain sight. These creatures are easy to spot. As long as you pay attention to your surroundings, you will probably find most of them. When you absolve them, you get a relic, which is an item that enhances your combat skills. For example, some relics increase your sight damage, or the experience points you get, or simply just the damage bonus on magic. You can only equip 2 relics at first, but you can unlock more slots by advancing in the holy or unholy path. Some relics also have levels, which means you can increase them by collecting souls. There are 2 more types of collectibles in the game, first one being the Judas coin. There are 30 scattered throughout the game. Each 5 coins will give you a large amount of souls. The second collectible is the Beatrice stone. You can find 5 of these in the game, but by collecting 3 of them, you'll get to skip a weird minigame you have to do when you absolve the sinners you find. I enjoy God of War, but I despise the wall climbing. It is awful. It is like a test of patience from a wicked god. I have to press buttons and move sticks like a puppet on strings. It is not fun, it is exhausting. And then there's foes on the walls. The battle against them are not fun or engaging. I just hit buttons and I hope I don't plummet. Dantes Inferno does this better. The climbing is fast and simple, and there's no combat on the wall. It's just a way of transporting yourself to a new part of the level. Last but not least is the redemption meter, which is displayed at the bottom of the left of the screen. Activating this ability lets you unleash powerful attacks and resist damage from enemies. You can build up this meter by performing stylish combos and collecting souls during combat. The maximum capacity of this meter can be expanded up to 3 bars by spending points in the upgrade menu. When it comes to the story and narrative, Dantes Inferno takes players on a journey through hell, based on the poem by Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy. The game delves into the depths of hell as Dante, a crusader who embarks on a quest to save his beloved Beatrice from the clutches of Lucifer. The game presents a dark and twisted depiction of the 9 circles of hell, each level representing a different sin, from lust to greed. And the game does a commendable job of capturing the essence of Dante's infernal voyage on each level. While the story may not offer groundbreaking originality, it successfully immerses the player in a world full of grotesque creatures, amazing environments, and a moral dilemma. The moral choices presented through the game adds another layer, allowing the player to shape Dante's character and align themselves with either heaven or hell. The voice acting is decent and adds some personality to the characters. The dialogue, however, is not very memorable and sometimes sounds cliché.
Who comes into my house of pain?
One who loves Beatrice! Tell me where to find her!
I smell only a traitor, a glutton, a murderer.
Sniff again! How dare you presume to speak with the judge of the dead!
The game does not rely heavily on dialogue, however, as most of the story is told through gameplay and visuals. The dialogue only becomes more frequent in the final confrontation, therefore the flaws in the dialogue is not very noticeable. In terms of pacing, the story keeps a steady momentum, driving players forward with a sense of urgency and purpose. You must save Beatrice at all costs. The narrative hooks you early on and maintains a consistent level of engagement, while being relatively simple. Between boss fights and encounters you get to see small snippets of Dante's life, and it shows that he hasn't been that much better than the other sinners he have condemned on his holy crusade. Giving in to the different sins he encounters on his crusade. This is the game's way of telling the story mainly. It is a nice addition and it gives you a little break between the relentless slaughter. There's not that much depth to the story despite the depth of hell. But it is simple and I appreciate it for what it is. Overall, while the story and narrative of Dantes Inferno might not be groundbreaking, it does bring a life to Dante's journey through hell. When I first launched the game, I was stunned by the graphics in the cinematics. An overview of a very convincing forest, followed up by Dante making for his home to meet his beloved Beatrice. I am genuinely impressed how good the cinematics from 2010 still looks. Obviously, the game is still from 2010, and just like everything else, this game has also aged. It does not look bad, and it does not stab you in the eyes when you look at it. It uses light from different sources, be it a pit of lava or a fire-breathing furnace. It lights up the levels in a soft way. But it's not a graphical treat compared to what we have nowadays, which is understandable. One of the aspects is worth mentioning is the stunning visual representation of the infernal landscape and horrific creatures. The art direction paints a vivid and unsettling picture of hell, immersing the players in a nightmarish nature. Most levels are distinct and memorable, with unique visuals to empower the representation of each sin, like the large busty statues and seductive succubus enemies that leaves me both terrified and question my own sexuality when they grow a massive tentacle from the crotch area, in the level representing lust. You also have the goth-themed level representing gluttony, where it feels like you are inside of a large creature's digestive system. The walls are pulsating and decorated with teeth and other bodily fluids. My personal favorite was probably the level based on the sin of greed. The lava gets replaced by smoldering hot gold, giving the entire level a yellow glow. You get introduced to a new enemy that hits you with a maze filled with gold coins. They start spinning up their attack and gold coins starts to fly around them as they spin around. But once you reach the more similar sins like anger, heresy and violence, the levels become a little bit more samey. They blend together and it's just mostly portrayed by a fiery landscape or darkness. Saying music is almost non-existent in this game would not be far from correct. It does play during battles and in special areas though. But I don't think this is a bad thing. This makes the game more impactful when it starts playing. You don't need to have an orchestra playing music all the time. Sometimes the silence speaks for itself. On your journey through the different levels of hell, you encounter either a disturbing silence or the agonizing cries of the damned souls, which creates a powerful effect. The sound of the suffering souls reinforces the concept of hell, and it does not need to play music all the time. I do struggle a little bit hearing the music in certain fights. I can hear that it's there, but the sound of violence and metals clashing as I dispatch my enemies of hell does overpower the music at times. Once you beat the game, you unlock a new difficulty, Inferno. This is a way to motivate you to play again and improve your skills. I had to lower the difficulty to Zealot when I played, so I would need to play again on Hell before I even think about trying Inferno. The game also gives you one of the 6 costumes for Dante upon completing it. Sadly, the rest require you to buy some kind of DLC or simply just a part of the pre-order promotion. Like many other games, this game also provides a new Game Plus mode, which lets you start from the beginning with all the skills you already acquired. This way you can enjoy the game with more options and abilities. For example, I could upgrade the cross for a change. Lastly is the Gates of Hell mode, which is inspired by the Bloody Palace from the Devil May Cry series. In this mode you have to face endless hordes of enemies in a timed challenge. You can either win by surviving 50 waves, lose by dying or running out of time. So, what do I think about Dantes Inferno? It's a fun game that does a good job of being a God of War game. But the game has a nasty habit of throwing surprises, quick time events at you that can end your life in a flash if you're not ready. It is like the developers are laughing at you and saying gotcha instead of making the game more enjoyable. This forces you to restart from a checkpoint that is not too far away, but still annoying. It seems like the game just wants to punish you randomly for no reason. The quick time events are not only as you explore hell, but are also during boss fights, which distracts the player from the visuals. Instead of enjoying the cinematic scenes that developers have created, the player has to focus on the area where the button prompts appear on the screen. This is a problem God of War also had in its earlier games, but they solved it by placing the buttons on the corresponding sides of the screen. For example, circle would always show up on the right side, and square would on the left. This way they could keep the quick time events and still let the player watch the cutscene. This game could benefit from a similar solution. The sight was a versatile and powerful weapon that offered various abilities to enhance the gameplay. I appreciate the well-designed progression system that rewarded me with useful unlocks for the sight, such as the dash attack and the spinning slash. I rarely use the cross, so I cannot comment on its effectiveness, but I assume it had its own advantages and drawbacks. But the sight was sufficient for most situations and challenges, as it allowed me to deal with enemies at different ranges and speeds. The game offers a satisfying combat system that allows you to evade, parry, and counter enemy attacks with precise timing. You can also unleash various combos with light and heavy attacks, as well as you launch your foes into air for aerial combat. The gameplay can be a little bit repetitive at times, but overall it's a fun and rewarding experience. I love juggling enemies in there and hitting them with heavy attacks after my light attack combo just to bounce them back up at me to stay afloat for a longer period of time. Aerial combat in hack and slash games like God of War and Devil May Cry is one of my favorite things to do. And this game does it well too. The generic enemies in the game were well designed and balanced. They posed a fair challenge without being too annoying or too easy. But they're not really memorable. The game's boss battles were generally well designed. They had some creative elements to them that added to the challenge and fun, but did feel a bit gimmicky at times. For example, where you have to turn two giant snake statues and light the boss of the last level, Cleopatra, on fire, in order to deal damage on her. The final confrontation with Lucifer, however, was frustrating and tedious. It demanded flawless execution and timing to defeat him. I spent about 90 minutes trying to beat him before I lowered the game's difficulty to classic. But then the fight became too easy and I felt no sense of accomplishment or satisfaction, and it made me feel like there was a missing difficulty between normal and hard. But I feel like I don't have a reason to go back to the game because it lacks replayability aside from the difficulty slider. In summary, Dantes Inferno does a good job of emulating God of War and provides an overall enjoyable experience. However, the game's surprised quick time events can be frustrating and feels like unnecessary punishment. The combat system is satisfying with its versatile scythe as highlight. Regular enemies are well designed, but some boss battles are gimmicky. The final battle with Lucifer is tedious and lacks a suitable difficulty level. Despite its flaws, fans of hack and slash games may still find Dante's Inferno engaging and rewarding, but it lacks replayability. Welcome to the after the video section. Congrats! You must have really enjoyed my first game review. Or maybe you just fell asleep on the keyboard. Either way, I appreciate you for watching and I hope you learned something new and found the video interesting. If you want more of this content, please consider subscribing and follow me on Twitch or join my Discord. All the links are in the description box. In the future, I will continue to do mostly old games and potentially some MMOs, because that's mainly the games I play. So stay tuned for more games, and thank you for watching.
Into the kingdom of purgatory!